What's good with YouTube? You already know, Big Flocko with the convict's perspective, and I'm smashing, dashing, sliding on through with a whole lot of energy because check it out, I got a good one for you guys today. But before we go into it, let's hit that bell notification, let's hit that like, comment, do all those things to help support this channel, man, and subscribe, of course. Now, as you guys know, I did a video about Frank Gucci in the past, right? Well regarded, North Daniel out there in the streets. Always been one of those ones to put in work, had a reputation, was definitely with the functions, with the action, right? Now, what people don't realize, right, is that the case that was built against him by the mob, and when I talk about the mob, I'm talking about the organization. A lot of that involved people who had personal issues with Cheeks. You know what I'm saying? Let's just keep it 100, man. A lot of this stemmed from certain carnales that were from the West Side, that were from Horseshoe, that wanted to push a certain agenda, right, against fucking Cheeks. Cachetes, right? It's all facts, right? Now, the icing on the fucking cake was this, right? Was a situation that happened where Raimundo Perez, aka Mr. from Hoffman, who was pretty much approached, right? There's a big size difference between these two, right? But as you already know, Gangsta Gucci's not going to back down. Smacked the shit out of him. Dude went and filed a red on red report. Now, Sammy, yes, Sammy, you guys already know who I'm talking about, right? Sammy Luna from Horseshoe, right? Been down for a long time. Has tried to give directives in the past towards fucking Frank Gucci, right? He is the one who had the final fucking stamp on Frank Gucci's status. And when he deemed Frank Gucci no good, he said there is to be no get backs. And what that was basically any carnal that decides to open this case, right? It was to be not to be looked into based upon his Cat 3 ranking. Now, for those of you guys who don't know, right? If you've been deemed and you're a Northern or Insole or whatnot, right? By a carnal, your case has already been handled by one with jurisdiction, right? With authority. Now, the only one who could overturn that is basically a more high-ranking C, right? Or the C that made that decision. Now, it's very unlikely that another C is going to open up an investigational packet to see if you should be cleared or not. Now, he can always reach out to that particular C and request that, hey, maybe you relook at this case and maybe you give him the clearance, right? But now, as we know, Frank Gucci's from where? West Side Mob. Sammy Luna is from Barrio Horseshoe. I mentioned this in a previous video, right? That there's always been carnales from the Horseshoe, from West Side Gangsta, all these different fucking hoods out there in the West Side, right? But not West Side Mob. Therefore, there's always been individuals that have held authority positions in rank over those of the West Side Mob when people get locked up or even out there in the streets. It's why the mob really did not involve themselves in any of the regimental activities out there, and why a lot of people used to hate on them, because they were their own entity in the sense that they took care of their own in the hood. They respected the guidelines for the Norte, and they didn't involve themselves in any old business. They did what they felt they needed to do. Now, whenever there was an issue, who do you think the first person that they were getting at from the mob back then? It was always fucking Frank Gucci, because he pulled that much weight in that hood. Now, there's a lot of other dudes that thought just like him, and so a lot of times, like I said, there was people who were quick to slander West Side Mob, that they were into red on red set tripping, that they were into this and that. Nah, to be honest with you, and this is from someone who is a neutral party, I've always gotten along with people from the mob and Horseshoe, okay? But for some strange reason, I've always gravitated towards people from the mob. We've always gotten along, right? To me, they fucking handled their business. You know, I always said red on red was, too many people utilize that to hide that they're cowards. You know what I mean? A lot of times, like I said, people are quick to strike you up on paper and telling another homeboy instead of approach them and deal with it one-on-one as men. You know what I'm saying? Now, I was always the one, I would clear someone. Anytime I seen a red on red case, it would depend on what the circumstances, situation was. Now, if it was set tripping, a fucking night of fucking drinking, someone got stupid, you're going to be held accountable. Right? Now, if it was personal, over someone's lady, over some one-on-one disrespect, hey, go handle it as men. I've been known to take homeboys up to the hills, right? And get two dudes that were feuding. Instead of it turning into a vital thing, we just take them up to the Peters Hills on Calaveras Road that comes out towards Pleasanton. We take them up in the hills, me and another homeboy, and we take them up there and let them fight like men. And that's how we used to do it. Now, the thing that's a red flag on this whole case is this, is that based on the fact that, Dragon's a Cat 3 from Emiliano, there's nobody that's going to touch his case. And what his decision is in this matter is going to stay. The only way that anybody will open up this case is if Dragon elects to fucking drop out, lay it down, or get expelled from the organization. Other than that, pretty much Frank Gucci wasn't given his due process. He refused to pay a fine. Why they tried to take advantage of that? I would be fining the other dude for even creating this situation, and I wouldn't even want to see the report. I'd be like, are you for reals? You're going to report this? Go handle that shit like, man, if you guys ain't killing each other, so be it, man. Go do what you got to do. Don't involve your homeboys. Go take care of that shit, and that's it. Right? So now you got a situation with an individual who's been indicted on Operation Quiet Storm. So communication is going to be a lot hard. And if there is certain C's that want to take a stand in support of Frank Gucci based upon Dragon's fucking ranking, it's going to be kind of hard to overturn that, man. I'm just going to keep it 100. And I think that in all actuality, I think that he should not have been put in a position to make that choice or that decision, because we've seen it time and time again where certain carnales would clear certain individuals that were from their hood, right? And they would deem people from other hoods that they had issues with. Or they would put someone on freeze and give them a pass and clearance. People that owed money or people that had disrespected certain, other Familiano's family members. They would somehow get a pass because they were in good with a particular carnal. And I think that's bullshit, right? So they should have had a fucking neutral party, you know what I'm saying, look into it. I know Baby G was out there for a minute, and he's pretty fair, right, when he looks into all cases. But the same token, he's not going to have that final decision if it lands on fucking Sammy's fucking doorstep. And I'm pretty sure people from fucking Sammy's hood were in his ear pushing this agenda, number one. Number two, I'm pretty sure I heard rumors that fucking Sammy had actually tried to talk to fucking Gangster Gucci before in the past. And Gangster Gucci, being his old man, really had nothing to fucking say to him. And that's just who he is, right? But he's the one that made the decision that he was to be deemed and that there was no get backs. And a lot of homeboys don't agree with it, but it's been filtered out there. It's been filtered out for like the last 2 years, but no one's really put that it was Sammy that was behind it, that he was the one that sanctioned it. And if you're from San Jose, we all know the biggest rival hoods is basically West Side Mob and fucking Barrio Horseshoe. It's been like that for years. Those two hoods have been going at it. Even to this day, they still don't really care for each other. Okay? Now, somehow, truth be told, man, I mean, anybody that was in high desert in the 90s know exactly what I'm talking about, man. Sammy was lucky that he was given a pass when he got validated and got to the Bay, because he was functioning in a part of those who were not part of a righteous group when he was up there in high desert. He was on fucking yard with the wrong people. He fell victim to being misled. And the truth of it is, was he really misled or was he going with the flow? Fortunately, he ended up in a pot, I think, with Puppet and all them. And that kind of gave him a little bit of, the pull that he has today was where he landed. But there was question marks when he was in high desert, man. Straight up. Anybody that knows what I'm talking about, he was around a certain yard where the homeboys were no good. He was falling into the play of what was going on. He eventually got snatched up and took into the hole. Then he got it validated. So, he was fortunate that he even got through that whole catastrophe, that mess, because that very well could have crossed him up and had him deemed no good. Other than that, I really don't have nothing negative to say about homeboy. You know what I'm saying? If you see his tattoos, you see he has the horseshoe on his chest, he has the NF and whatnot. And we already know that the issues that stand between the mob and Horseshoe probably had a lot to do with this. Like I said, I've been hearing about fucking Frank Gucci's name since the early 90s, right? And even in the 2000s, when I was out there, when the mob was potentially going to be green lighted, when there was talks about that, he was one of the names that they kept on mentioning and that they approached to get at. So this is how it is, man. Like I said, man, sometimes people who have ranking status get put in positions to be banditos. And what I mean by that is they take advantage of the spoils of of the sacrifices that others made, the sweat and blood of others. They get that status, they get that position, and then they abuse it. You're never supposed to mistreat your gente. You're supposed to be a fucking leader and not make those choices or decisions. I would have a hard time deeming someone no good because they smacked the shit out of some dude that was twice the size of them, right? And then that dude filed a red on red report, and then that dude didn't want to pay a fine because he said this is a personal issue, it has nothing to do with any regimental business or homeboy business, which it didn't. It had nothing to do with that. You know, nobody should be able to hide behind that red bandana. It's a disrespect to those that have made those sacrifices, you know what I'm saying, and whatnot. For those that sit there and always get put in situations to where they file those reports, man, that would get me fucking a little bit skeptical. What are they going to do when the real pressure comes on? Because if they can't deal with something that's personal, that a lot of it that they created between them and that person out there in the streets, then what's going to happen when something serious happens? I'm just keeping it 100 on that, man. Anyways, you know, like I said before my previous video, man, he wasn't really afforded the right due process. The case should never been brought forth as far as you know, to everyone else. But see, the thing is, the way the mob has to operate, though, is there's probably those that have done similar situations that certain organizational members have taken advantage of to put on freeze, you know, find them guilty of red on red and fine them and pretty much line up their pockets. Because trust me on this, when that fine is being enforced, half that money is not being reported. Half that money is going into that carnal's pockets. 100% facts, right? And that's what you probably have right here. So you can't be, you know, enforcing directives on everybody else. And then you have someone like fucking Frank Gucci who doesn't give a fuck and is going to stand up for what he's right. It makes them look bad if they can't get this dude to comply. So that's basically what it comes down to, too. Is that basically Sammy was put in a position to where he doesn't like this neighborhood. He doesn't like this dude. So here I am. I get to fucking deem him. In his eyes, he's doing a service for his hood. It's not a service for the people. Because the people need gente like fucking Frank Gucci, who, when push comes to shove, he's going to be frontline. He's going to be the one that's going to get off. He doesn't want no part of the political shit. But when it comes down to it, Frank's someone that you want at your side when you're getting ready to ride. With that said, it's your boy Flacco. I'm gone.